me all tonight. So glad to see all your smiling, wonderful, beautiful faces. Just get in and worship with us tonight. Just give God your all. Offering plates are in the back. Get in and worship with us.
filled with wonder, all should wonder at the mention of your name. Jesus, your name is power, wrapped in living water, such a marvelous mystery. It's who you are, I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am.
Hello, everybody. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit different. But for my verse, we're going to go to Psalms 51, verses 10 through 13. It says, "Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a steadfast spirit within me. Do not cast me away from your presence, and do not take your Holy Spirit from me. Restore to me the joy of your salvation, and uphold me by your generous spirit. Then I will teach transgressors your ways, and sinners shall be converted to you." Dear Jesus, we just thank you for allowing us to be here this evening, Lord, and I pray, Lord, that you hide me behind a veil, that I may not be seen, but that you would be heard through my words. Lord, I pray, Lord, that you would just open our hearts and our minds to receive all that you have for us this evening. And let us not leave here the way that we came. In Jesus' my name we pray. Amen. So everybody should have gotten a piece of paper and a pen. If you didn't get one, please raise your hand. Okay, everybody got one. Okay. Okay, so on that piece of paper, I'm going to have you do something for me real quick. And when I say this, you're probably going to be like, I'm good. But please participate. Okay, so on this piece of paper, I want you to write down, no one else has to see it, no one else is going to see it, but I want you to write down everything that you've held on to. So that could be, okay, sorry. So that can be depression, anger, guilt, shame, an addiction, anything that you've held on to. Those are just examples. Generational curse, anything. So as you're writing that, I'm going to tell you a little story. Okay, this is where it's a little bit of a struggle for me because, anyways, so for years I battled depression, and it just so happened that while I was battling it, I gave birth to my second daughter. And in that process, for 4 months, I wouldn't even hold her. And it was a very, very trying time. And luckily, I had family that loved on her. But I was so depressed and so just down deep in everything that had happened in my life up to that point that I chose to not spend time with her. I didn't want to hold her. I didn't want to love on her. And it was because I was just so sad. And I had held on to things for years, and I had gotten stuck in that. So to come to the happy part, when I rededicated my life, that was one of the things I was like, it's gotta go. I can't live in this anymore. And so I came up to the front, and I don't remember the service. I couldn't tell you that, but it was about deliverance. And I remember coming up front and getting prayer, and I said, I just want to be delivered from this depression. And I was on medication at that point, And I said, I don't want to be on this medication anymore. And I'm not saying if you're on medication and that's what's best for you, do that. But I'm saying that there's a God who can heal you, where you don't need medication. And I know that because I'm no longer on medicine. Because I truly believe God delivered me from that. And so, the reason why I come with that story tonight is because this has really been weighing on me. And it's been dealt with in my own situation, so I have my own list. But there's, in case you didn't see my title, it's housekeeping. And this really stuck with me because housekeeping, so when you think of it, you think, oh, we have to sweep and mop and dust, and we're cleaning our house. We also have to housekeep our souls, and our minds and our hearts, and we have to be prepared for everything that God has for us. So, I started studying this for myself, and then I felt like I needed to share it tonight. But sweeping means to prepare. In the Bible, that's what it's signified as. So I'm going to give you an example. If you go, that was a different, anyways, it was a verse where it said, hold on, I think I wrote it down. Sorry, guys. Okay, well, maybe I did, but I'll read this one. Isaiah 1:16 says, wash yourselves, make yourselves clean, put away the evil of your doings from before my eyes, cease to do evil. I can't find it, I'm sorry. Okay, so sweeping ourselves clean, spiritually clean means we're not lying, cheating, stealing, acting out of fear, gossiping, or manipulating. And we're making sure that we're prepared for what the Lord has to do for us, or has for us to do for Him, which means reaching others. And how can we do that if we're not spiritually clean? And by our testimony is how we're going to reach others. So, on that piece of paper, if you're still writing, continue. But I'm going to show you a little illustration. Connor's going to help me out. Okay, so every time you hold on to something, and this is just, it's not really heavy, but we're going to pretend. So every time you hold on to something, you're adding it to your bag.
That's right.
And as you're adding it to your baggage and you're carrying it around, it's going to get a little bit heavier each time. So every time you hold on to something that you're not getting rid of and you're not leaving at the altar with God and saying, God, cleanse me of this and deliver me from this and help me not pick it back up again, you're adding it to your bag.
That's right.
And every time you add something to your bag is just a little bit heavier. But you're still adding because you're not losing the things that are already in there,
Yeah.
but now you're adding more to it.
Yes, that's right.
And as we continue to add, it's just more that we're carrying around. So when someone, say we're carrying around anger and someone says something that maybe they didn't mean out of anger, but they said it to you and you took it that way, your first response is an angry response. your first response is to look at them in a different light.
Yeah.
And again, you start carrying that around. And you just continue until your bag's so full that you're going to have to get another bag and another bag. And you just keep adding.
Yeah.
Before your bag's so full that you can't fit anything else in it, but you're still carrying things. And you're not leaving them at the altar, you're not getting rid of them, you're not getting delivered from them, but instead you're just continuing to carry them around. And I know a lot of us in here are the ones who are at church every time the doors are open, or every time there's an event, or maybe, oh, you know, my relationship's right with God. So is mine. That doesn't mean we still don't hold on to things. We just hide them better.
That's right.
So you're still hiding those things in your bag, and you're still carrying them around, and it's still getting heavier on you. But now you're starting to get a little bound up. So now you're bound up. So not only are you carrying a heavy bag of weight that you have, but now you're bound.
That's right.
So now, what are you going to do? You're stuck. You're carrying this around, and you're just walking, and you're just carrying it around. And it doesn't get any lighter. It's going to get heavier as time goes by.
Yeah.
So here you are carrying all this stuff around, and you're bound. How are you supposed to help someone who comes in if you're bound?
Good.
How are you supposed to reach somebody who walks in those doors if you're still carrying around this stuff that they need to let go of, but you can't teach them how because you're still holding on to it?
Good.
So, so the whole point is we can't reach those in the world and those around us and those in our community if we're still holding on to all of this.
Yeah.
And so then, when you do come up front and you do allow God to deliver that from you, He breaks it off with you. And then you start to lose all that weight. And He starts to take those things, and you're no longer carrying them around.
Yeah.
And you're no longer bound by them, because you're no longer bound by them, and you're no longer holding on to them, and you're no longer carrying them around, but you fully surrender them to God. And sometimes I think we come up front and we're like, you know, God, you can have this, and I'm going to give it to you. But then the second we walk out those doors, we pick it back up.
Yeah.
Someone says something to us, and we're instantly like, oh, you know, I left that at the altar, but... And it's something that we hold on to. So, my challenge is that now on your piece of paper, if there's anything you didn't write down, then now you're like, oh, I should probably write that down. Go ahead and do that. But just remember, when you're writing things down, if there's something that you missed, denial's not going to help you carry it with you out of here. Just remember that God can't remove it unless you allow Him to remove it.
Good.
And you're never going to fully allow Him until you surrender it. As we're getting ready to go into the new year, I just kept thinking, as I was studying this, God, I don't want to take this stuff with me. I want to go into the new year a new person. And I want everyone else to too. And I want it to be not a year of things that I'm holding on to, but a year of things that you're growing in me. And how can I allow growth if I'm still holding on to the past or onto things that I never let go of? So, altar call is going to be a little bit different. And it was short, I know, but I want you to take that piece of paper. And right where you sit, I want you to think about it. Am I really going to let this go tonight? Am I ready? Do I want to start out my new year with all this still on me? Or do I want to leave it at the altar and surrender it to God fully, wholeheartedly, and leave here a new person? Then I want you to think, am I ready to take every step that entails? Because it's not going to be easy. There are going to be days that you're going to be tempted or tried, but God never said it would be easy. So I want you to take that piece of paper tonight, and if you're fully ready to surrender it and leave it with God, then there's a trash can up here, and I want you to come up and rip it up and throw it in that trash can, and then I want you to find a place to pray. Because that is fully surrendering it to God.